Afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Michael McNeely, CEO of Metal Tiger, and I'm going to take you through a brief presentation today on Metal Tiger Plc. First off, we're an investing company listed on the AIM market, and we're seeking to create value in growth mining companies. Short little disclaimer that you clearly won't be able to read, so we'll just skip on through that. Just to give you a brief overview about Metal Tiger, 21.4 million market cap. We've got a wide variety of various different investments, mainly focused on base and precious metals. I'd say our largest focus is on copper, particularly focused on the Kalahari Copper Belt. But we're really looking for high potential mineral projects. And I think the key thing to note from this is our significant shareholders. Exploration Capital Partners is a fund which is run by Sprott out of the United States, and the fund manager is Rick Rule. I think you may have come across him in the sector. He also recently participated for £800,000 in the last placing at 1.45 pence. So the other larger shareholders are our board members, Terry Grammer and Charles Hall. Charles Hall is with us in the audience today and also can be visited at our booth. And then the other is a high net worth individual called Mike Joseph. We've really started building, I'd say, quite a significant diversified portfolio, and we'll go through some of those investments as we go through this presentation. And I'm pleased to say I think we have a very strong management team, and we pull a lot of resources from a diverse group of technical consultants as well. Just to hark on about the board built for growth, Charles Hall, who's with us, over 30 years with HSBC, was the CEO and chairman of HSBC, Private Bank Luxembourg, amongst many other roles, and as a qualified actuary, and brings a wealth of contacts and introductions that have aided Metal Tiger over the years. And he's been a very, very good corporate governance person to oversee the operations of the board. Myself, I'm an ex-corporate financier, ex-nomad, understand the vagaries of the markets, understand the vagaries of the rules. Got involved in Metal Tiger from the very, very beginning when it was listed at less than £500,000 and put up some of the initial capital. Our chief investment officer, who was previously a non-executive director, a very, very high quality individual who is here today, who you can go meet at our booth. He's the founder of Tiger Capital Partners, which is an investment company. He's a former director and chief investment officer of Anglo Pacific, and he used to work for Audley Capital, where he deployed over 300 million and generated some significant returns in his time, including one where he made $660 million of profit. Terry Grammer, he's a very seasoned veteran. He's won Joint Prospector of the Year in Australia for his discovery of the Cosmos nickel mine, which was one of the most profitable nickel deposits on the planet. He's also a co-founder of Western Aries with Julian Hanna, who is the MD of Mod Resources, and he was also founding director of Sirius Resources as well. He is what I would call our bullshit meter, because there's a lot of bullshit out there, and Terry really helps weed through what you don't want to be putting your money into. So we're very, very lucky to have him. And finally, Neville Bergen, who we were introduced to via Terry and worked with initially on the Kingsgate activist campaign, which was run at the late end of 2017. Neville Bergen, he's a mining engineer with over 40 years of experience, has worked on numerous projects preparing the consulting reports, and he brings a level of technical due diligence and expertise and oversight, as well as a wealth of contacts. Both Terry and Neville are based out of Perth, which is a mining hub. Some of our key investments: we own a 10.46% equity stake in Mod Resources, which is dual listed on the ASX and the London Stock Exchange. We also have a further 40.7 million shares in Mod Resources, so we are the largest fully diluted shareholder in Mod, and I am a non-executive board member of Mod Resources. They're obviously to look after all of Mod shareholders' interests, but also there as a nominee of Metal Tiger. Mod Resources is interested in the T3 copper project, which just announced its feasibility study this week. And they included a probable ore reserve of about 372,000 tons of copper plus silver credits, which we'll come to further details on the numbers of that exciting T3 project later today. In terms of the exploration side of things, we still maintain a 30% interest with Mod Resources over 8,000 square kilometers in the Kalahari Copper Belt. Highly prospective ground. This is sediment-hosted copper, and we'll get to a little bit more in detail as to why we like this type of mineralization so much. Furthermore, Kalahari Metals, we've got 50%. That's another prospect in the Kalahari Copper Belt. 8,700 square kilometers of interest, granted exploration licenses through various farm-in structures with 2 companies. And we have another diverse portfolio of equity stakes in highly prospective companies, including those with gold in Chile, Vita Resources. We have a direct project interest in Spain, 50% in some tungsten and gold assets. Greatland Gold, which just signed a $65 million farm-in with Newcrest. We have a 0.5% of that. Sable Resources, which is a project generator out of Canada where they have a very, very good technical team. And then we've got a direct interest in Chemco Mining, which is our Thai asset. In terms of the Kalahari Copper Belt, which I'd say is probably the largest asset allocation of Metal Tiger, obviously Mod Resources represents our largest holding. We believe that this is one of the major underexplored copper belts. It's getting harder and harder to find good copper discoveries, and the environmental sort of risk of developing good copper assets is increasing. So in countries like Peru, Chile, it's becoming harder and harder. Botswana's got 2 million people. It's pretty much a single tribe. There are a few minorities there, like the Bushmen. But it's a long-established mining industry with diamonds, so they have a skilled workforce. They have had a copper industry in the past, and that's newly developing now. Excellent infrastructure, and we should have grid power coming down to the T3 project by 2020. A favorable tax regime, very supportive and stable government. The previous president, Ian Khama, stepped down after his 10-year term, and we now have Magwetsi, who seems to be pushing on with similar policies. Basically, there's cattle, there's tourism, there's farming. It's a landlocked country, so and then there's obviously mining. So they absolutely are very, very supportive of mining, and they have a very practical environmental policy. So just to give a brief overview of the T3 project, it's located between Maun and Khanzi, and the T3 open pit, which is in the probable category with that reserve that I mentioned, and Mod is currently doing infill drilling to try and move some of that into the proven category to increase its potential of raising bank financing for the T3 open pit. So we've got 34 million tons at 1% copper, 13.2 grams ton silver for contained 342.7 thousand tons copper and 14.6 million ounces silver metal, which will produce a very, very attractive 30.4% Cu concentrate. These types of concentrates are in high demand from smelters, so they can blend it with lower grade material. Attractive economics. Of course, Mod have only quoted the pre-tax economics, so I would invite you all to ask me outside what my thoughts are on the post-tax economics, but I can't disclose what hasn't been disclosed. But obviously, $368 million pre-tax, very attractive 33% IRR, and a modest $182 million development capital. There is a $84 million sustaining capital or capex associated with that, but sustaining capital usually wouldn't start being paid until about year 2. In terms of cash flow, you're looking at $777 million over the 11.5-year mine life and $2.3 billion revenue. EBITDA US $1.1 billion with a 47% EBITDA margin. I've already covered the mine life, but it's in the lowest quartile all-in sustaining costs at $1.56 a pound of copper, and an attractive, although slightly increased from the PFS, 3.7-year payback. This, for those who know the story, was because of the geotechnical consultants essentially making us widen the pit. Just to run through some of the key economics here. Obviously, I've already gone through those, but let's point out the operating cash costs. C1 cash costs of $1.35 a pound of copper. That's very competitive. and obviously the pre-tax IRR of 33%. Anybody who wants to look at this in more detail, it's in a copy of the presentation. We're very excited, though, about the exploration potential of this copper belt. T3, just to give a bit of history, it was found on the third drill hole on a zinc and copper anomaly, soil anomaly, and obviously was using magnetics in order to locate where they thought they should drill. Hit 52 meters at 2%, and they've drilled it out ever since. And in about 3 years, here we are at a DFS stage. Metal Tiger is interested in 30% over circa 8,000 square kilometers, and there's been a lot of drilling last year, and there's some drilling ongoing at A1 Dome currently on the T3 expansion project, which Metal Tiger maintains that 30% interest in. A4 actually had some rather interesting hits last year, but it's quite deep drilling and it's rather expensive, and so we've held off doing that, although certainly it would be encouraging to drill that out, as it is circa 8 kilometers away from T3, and one could potentially see a 10 to 15 million ton underground resource, and some studies indicate that would be economic at about 1.3% copper grade. Then on the other side of the belt, you've got the T20 exploration project, the T4 prospect and the T20 prospect. These currently have environmental licenses over them, about 655 square kilometers to drill, and we're hopeful that as things progress with T3, Mod and Metal Tiger will be able to put more capital into the exploration drilling on this ground. Kalahari Metals, this has nothing to do with Mod, it's Metal Tiger 50% owned, and the two directors who operate the company for what it's worth are the other major shareholders in the company, and that's Luke Smith and Adam Woolridge. Direct and indirect exposure to 12 highly prospective exploration licenses, covering a total of 8,000 square kilometers. And a lot of the work that you can see done on this picture here, you can see what we're looking for is anticlinal fold hinges. So we're following a lot of the same work that Mod has done, and we're interpreting the anticlines and the synclines. And if you see where the lines are, these are the planned drill targets that Adam has come up with, and we're looking at the anticlinal fold hinge. So it's where the mineralization is coming up around like that and is trapped in here, or well, hopefully. And luckily, it tends to be in these types of situations that if we've modeled it right, these drill holes will help us better pinpoint where the mineralization may have accumulated. And we're hoping to be able to drill that in 2019, and EMPs have been with the office, and we're hoping that something happens imminently so that'll go out for gazetting, and we're already speaking to drilling contractors to get in quotes. In terms of other investments, we got several gold investments. Greatland Gold, 0.5%, as I mentioned. We're very, very, very positive. Terry absolutely loves this investment, sees huge potential, and they have to drill other areas of their licenses, Black Hills in particular. They announced a $65 million farm-in deal with Newcrest on Havieron in March, and we expect, given the Telfer mine being so proximal to Greatland Gold, licenses at Havieron, that they will be spending all of that money, or a very large amount of it. Vita Resources, it's in the southern coastal region of Chile, largely unexplored, very close to a 2 million ounce operating mine, but really has not been the focus of much exploration, and these guys are experienced in putting together a very substantial land package, and they should be listing in Q2 in Canada, and raising money to do an aggressive drill campaign. We have just under 10%, and that's very deliberate because we won't be locked in, and we expect quite an uplift on our pre-IPO investment. Sable Resources, as I mentioned earlier, it's a team that has a very strong track record of gold discoveries and project generation, and they're currently drilling some pretty high-grade silver discoveries in Mexico, and I'd encourage you to go visit their website. Logrosán was a direct project, somewhat of a legacy investment, although we are doing a bit of a reanalysis of it currently internally. they're looking for two types of mineralization. You're looking for tungsten mineralization, where previously we've done a lot of RAB drilling and identified tungsten grades, of about 0.2, getting increasing at depth, and it certainly merits some drilling. And on the gold side, you're looking for a Fort Knox. So we're not talking high grade, but we're talking large volume, low grade type of deposits. Fort Knox, it's very, very high tonnage, sort of 1 gram a ton type stuff. But it looks like it's the same type of intrusion-related gold structure, gold system. And we'll be updating the market shortly on Spain. Pan Asia Metals just recently got granted their lithium licenses in Thailand. They've been in much the same boat as we have in our Thai assets. Very, very pleased that they managed to get that 5-year granted lithium licenses in the first meeting of the Mineral Committee, the newly established Mineral Committee in Thailand. And they're looking at lepidolite in mica, so it's lithium in mica, and that's rather attractive. It's high grade, and we think it's in a very good position in the peer group. Furthermore, it's key to the Thai government because it's adding one of those keywords. It's called import substitution, and they have a very large car manufacturing industry in Thailand, and they're aggressively promoting electric vehicles. And so if they can do anything to increase import substitution, this project will get a lot of support from the Thai government, and they will also get a lot of support for in-country processing. They're planning an IPO focusing around September, October of this year, so we're hopeful to get a liquidity event on that. Thor Mining, obviously we've had a few discussions with Thor recently. We've introduced them to Argent Partners, who are helping them to find strategic financing partners on their Molly Hill asset. And so hopefully we'll see the fruits of their labor in the next few months. And obviously we're quite interested by their Kapunda asset, and we think that the Pilot Mountain asset in the USA could be fairly strategic, although we note that it requires a lot more drilling and is obviously permitting in the United States is a bit of a nightmare. Chemco, Metal Tiger's 100% owned subsidiary in Thailand, which is focused on mineral exploration in Thailand. Several license applications. In fact, we've been pestered by the Thai government whether we want to get some of those granted or not. Also has a joint venture to acquire up to 80% of Boyai Mining Company, which is a brownfield silver lead zinc mine in Kanchanaburi province. That has a 4.6 million ton resource, 4.2% lead, 3.4% zinc, 70 grams a ton silver. We're currently remodeling and redesigning the entire way we go about looking at this project, and we will be looking to update the market shortly on that. I'm being told I've got to call it a day. Are there any questions quickly? Nope. Sorry, guys. No worries. Thank you very much for your time.